Thanks, guys, for having me today. I'm excited to come and talk about the amazing activities we have, well, one of the amazing activities we have planned for this summer in Fairmount Park. As you mentioned, I am Maura McCarthy. I'm the newish executive director of the Fairmount Park Conservancy. I came from Friends of the Wissahickon, where I was executive director for 14 years. And started here at FPC in January. So I've been here through 7 nearly very eventful months right in the heart of Philadelphia's parkland and open space, which in some ways has been the most open forum for discussion around some of our recent events. So as you can imagine, a lot of our work at the Conservancy has been heavily impacted by the COVID-19 response, in particular over the last 6 months. I should say that I grew up in Delco and Philadelphia, and I have a PhD in cultural anthropology, nothing that is actually particularly pertinent to my current field of activity, but I picked up a lot about ecosystem services and community engagement along the way as I've ED'd over the years. And the reason I picked up so much about ecosystem services is because Philadelphia's parklands were actually created to preserve our ecosystem services. Unlike many cities, Philadelphia drinks from our surface water. We don't drink from groundwater, and we don't have our water piped in from far away like New York City does. We draw our drinking water primarily from the Schuylkill and the Delaware rivers. And the intakes at those rivers draw from our sub-watersheds, the Wissahickon, the Pennypack, the Tacony, the Frankfort, and the Cobb's watersheds. So when those watersheds are impacted by bad water quality conditions, our drinking water for the entire city is impacted. And with that vision in mind, city planners in the 1860s decided to do something to ensure public health by claiming green space on either side of some of our most important waterways. This includes the heart of Fairmount Park system, which is Fairmount Park itself, East and West Park, which of course we take our name from. And although their acquisition was inspired by the need to protect drinking water, our parks have been recognized as a critical amenity for Philadelphia residents since their creation. They improve our air quality, they dissipate urban heat islands, and they provide a place for social, emotional, and even spiritual respite for all Philadelphians and millions of visitors from around the region annually. So what does Fairmount Park Conservancy do to support this amazing park system? In a simple phrase, we bring parks to life. After decades of municipal disinvestment in our parklands, the Conservancy was formed in the 1990s to address the decline in the beauty and accessibility of Philadelphia's iconic park spaces. Although we were initially imagined as a straightforward fundraising arm for Philadelphia's cash-poor Parks Department, which is now Philadelphia Parks and Recreation, the Conservancy's mission has grown to ensure that the community has a voice and a literal hand in the improvement of our parklands. And today we conduct our work in 4 ways. We do park improvements, community engagement, site activation, and we grow support for our parks, both financial and social. Park improvements are the part that you're most likely to see when you visit any piece of Fairmount Park. By park improvements, we mean capital projects, like the big capital projects that we've done in the past at Hunting Park. We also mean projects in the future, like the recent master plan that was created for FDR Park in South Philadelphia. Our stewardship team, our conservation team, takes care of more than 40 historic buildings and sites across our park system, doing skilled, detailed historic conservation work. And our land management team enhances the biological diversity and health of Philadelphia's natural lands and watersheds. We also participate as an organization in the citywide urban greening and canopy goals. And last year we invested nearly $4 million in the physical fabric of Philadelphia's parks. Engagement programming is about connecting people to the parklands and creating a feeling of ownership and shared benefits for the whole city. Volunteer programming during Love Your Park is what we call our signature event. It's usually held once in the spring and once in the fall and brings people together all over the city to centralize sites to take care of our parkland, participate in tree plantings and cleanups, and in general show the love that we have for our parks every day. But in addition to those hands-on volunteer engagements, we convene 131 park friends groups around the city, 30 community gardens and orchards, and encourage thousands to enjoy the health benefits of our parks through the We Walk program. These friends and community gardeners take care of the parks and they take care of one another. They keep the parks clean, encourage one another to be healthy, and grow over 4,500 pounds of organic produce to share with our local communities. Activation is intended to help reintroduce park spaces in new ways to both new and old park visitors and new and old neighbors. So most of the activations that the public would be familiar with that the Conservancy has worked on are things like the Oval. West Park Arts Festival is also very popular last year with over 5,000 people attending. We host historic house tours, particularly the holiday houses, which are very popular. Last year, 3,000 folks attended that. And we had an amazing dance installation piece last year in Motion in Place across the city. And that was an amazing, like that was a astounding logistical feat, which had dancers atop buildings and in centralized park spaces, near water bodies. It was truly amazing. So the idea is to get people to look at our spaces in new ways. You can see pictured here Hatfield House, which is kind of iconic. It's on a sort of, it's in Strawberry Mansion, right on 33rd Street. For many years I would drive by and I never knew what was inside. And as part of the activation work of the Conservancy, this house was opened up and became an arts hub for the community. And you can see here musicians and you can see people working and creating within this space and having community meetings here. So activation is about taking something old and helping people see it in a new way by putting new activities, sometimes by physically brightening or improving the space, as we did with Hatfield House. Sometimes about having people navigate the space in a new way, as we have, as we did last year with our first Fairmount Park scavenger hunt. So activation is critical because it has to help people understand and rediscover the potential for the lands that they know so well, or get to know lands that belong to them that they don't know that well. And of course, building support. We were created to be a fundraising arm for parks, and we continue to do that. But we don't just raise funding for our park system, we also raise political and social support and the will to see our parks improved. So one of our most important programs is our membership program. And we have member events throughout the year to tie people literally into the parkland, bring them in for runs, for yoga sessions, for parties. And of course, our annual centennial celebration is a tremendous fundraising effort. And all of these efforts are geared toward creating a sense of ownership, place, significance for our public lands. Ultimately, all of this program shares a baseline in that we believe that parks can serve as catalysts for positive change throughout the city, and the important role that parks play in people's lives as places of joy, recreation, and social connection. And of course, that's more important than ever now. As we've seen the response to COVID-19 this year, parks have become the epicenter, really the only place where public life can still be conducted. We're seeing a huge increase in people throughout the entire city using our parkland. But one of the things we're not seeing is a huge increase in the investment of resources necessary to support this number of people using our parkland. So although everybody's saying how important our parks are across the entire city, people are sort of re-emerging into our public spaces in new ways, simply because there is literally nowhere else to go during parts of the pandemic. What we saw was that parklands that have systemically been underfunded and suffered from a lack of infrastructure and a lack of maintenance support are feeling that lack more than ever. So although we believe that parks can serve as catalysts for positive change throughout the city, and that they have an important role to play in lives as places of joy, recreation, and social connection. I went too far back. Sorry, wrong way. That love has translated itself into increasingly poor conditions within the parklands themselves. So we've seen more and more people using parklands and fewer resources available due to the economic recession, due to the lack of ability to navigate our public spaces freely. We have more and more impacts being felt every day on the ground on our park spaces. So these are a couple of pictures that were recently taken on Belmont Plateau and FDR Park. The thing is, though, when you remember that our parks are not just places for gathering, that they're actually an ecosystem service, as we talked about earlier, they actually provide, you know, the ecosystem services we need to create public health within the city of Philadelphia. So litter and waste, whether it be, you know, human waste or dog waste or other, goes directly into our waterways and directly degrades our public health as well as the amenity or facility of the parkland that we're using. Now, ordinarily, the Conservancy deals with this type of lack of infrastructure by having hands-on large group cleanup efforts across the entire city, one in the spring, one in the fall, known as Love Your Park Week. Last year in 2019, we had 2,000 volunteers coming out citywide, over 100 neighborhood parks involved, you know, a massive service day in the fall at 104 parks. We really are able to mobilize people in large groups to actually accommodate a lot of the overall maintenance that falls through the cracks that the city is not able to provide. But obviously we can't do that this year. And at a time when we have, in some places, a 400% increase in uses of parkland, that lack of basic maintenance is really critical. So we have park usage and litter at an all-time high. We still don't know how we can safely navigate being in these spaces as a group. And we have more and more people recognizing that the parks are not only, you know, a valued amenity, they are in some ways the most critical amenity that we have as a city right now. They're the most available and egalitarian spots for gathering. Outdoor spaces at a huge premium. We need that to have any type of social gathering right now. And we see a lot of people wanting to support their parks. So at the Conservancy, to rethink the way we do our work in 2020, we've started reimagining how we do cleanups throughout the park system. This year, we are going to be piloting a project called Love Your Park Solo. So instead of 2 events, one in the spring, one in the fall, we'll have individual and household group cleanups. You can register online, you're sent a cleanup kit, you track your volunteer hours online, and we're encouraging folks to share photos of their work on social media. We can also encourage folks to donate to support the work and provide kits for others to clean up their local parks. This is a picture of the kit that you get when you sign up for Love Your Park Solo. The first lucky people to sign up got a trash grabber. Those sold out in a matter of minutes, I believe. It's a free sign up and a free kit. We had over 300 signups since July 1st, so that's pretty intensive. And we had to actually close this first round of sign-up sessions because it was so popular. We have collected donations through this process, and we're going to be transitioning at some point to an in-person distribution for the cleanup kits at a few different sites over the summer. So a modified version of Love Your Park, where instead of everybody gathering together to centrally clean a site, you might come by 1s or 2s to pick up your kits and then go off into the parkland separately to do the cleanup work and record your work remotely and share it with us after you're finished. So a few brave souls have already started doing this at Kelly Drive and in the Wissahickon and at FDR too, I believe. So if you've been to any of those parks lately, you know how deep the need is to have some type of cleanup happening. Right now, this is the most likely way that we're going to be making an inroads into some of the basic maintenance needs of our parkland, particularly around basic trash cleanup. So Love Your Park Solo is just one of the ways we're going to be adapting to the conditions that COVID has created through our park system. We are also going to be announcing another exciting initiative next week, which is about, again, distributed use. Instead of having people all gather together in one space, how can we encourage people to explore and navigate our park system safely on their own? How can we enhance amenities? How can we band together a feeling of community, even if we're all experiencing this separately at separate times and separate places? So that's an announcement we'll be making next week about how we're going to encourage people to come and visit, have 50 great experiences in East and West Park. And to find out more about that, please follow our social media on My Philly Park and sign up for our emails. And I think that is everything. I'm so sorry about my technical difficulties, folks.
No worries. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Go for it.
Disagreements, one movie that you want to watch? Sorry. I'm curious, when you guys set out with this program, did you expect the kits to sell out within minutes? And did you have any goals for participants or anything like that? I think it's a great idea and a great way to get people engaged, and also doing something very practical as well. So I'm just curious to.
So I think our tentative goal was to see how far we could get toward replicating last year's results in terms of like trash tonnage taken in and hours contributed through this distributed model. So like that was sort of the tentative goal we set ourselves. I don't think we really expected to sell out of the kits. I mean, we sell out, they were free, so it's not really selling out, but I don't think we expected to run out of the kits so quickly. We have noticed that demand really outstrips supply. And as we go into the green phase a little bit more, we'll be able to have those distribution sites in particularly high need parks like Long Kelly Drive. The Wissahickon has its own volunteer team, but they're going to be out there increasingly. You know, FDR Park is going to need some special love, in East and West Park. So yeah, it was a surprise, but a good surprise. We knew people wanted to do something.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well,
I have a question. Who's responsible for getting the trash out of the water along Kelly's Drive? So I took about a 4-mile walk this morning, and for the first time I got a chance to explore the boardwalk trail for the first time. And while standing there, I did see the geese, but it was like a divider in the water, like a barricade kind of keeping the trash in one spot. And I was just wondering, because I usually volunteer as well, but I was wondering who has access to get all of that trash and debris. It was a whole lot out there this morning. And I was just wondering who goes in there to retrieve that out. Is that something that we can do when we volunteer?
Generally, that is done by the Philadelphia Water Department's restoration team. So they have a waterways restoration crew. They can go in and do in-waterway removals like that. But periodically, like volunteers can do that. In fact, in the Wissahickon, when I was there, we used to have people get in a canoe and like paddle out and pull out the trash. So we haven't started doing that yet at the Conservancy. I don't think we're going to be sending out canoes for our Love Your Park Solo, but it is definitely an important thing to do. Cleaning our waterways is one of the most important benefits to public health we can give as volunteers in terms of service. So that's a great question. Right now, it's the water department that's doing the bulk of that work, but we all need to pitch in a little bit more.